Hello people, welcome to Gurukula. I'm Jai. So today in this video we are going to talk about how to perform a brute force attack in our DVWA web application using our OS ZAP. So without any further delay, let's get into the topic. If you have directly landed onto this particular video, I would like to tell you that this is a series of lectures where we discuss on web application penetration testing and lots of vulnerabilities in the web application. So in our previous video, we spoke a lot about how to set up a ZAP so that it can intercept the HTTP requests which is exchanged between a web application and then the client. So I will leave the link for the complete playlist in the description box below, and I would recommend you to check that out. So before we actually hack into the system, let us try to understand what exactly brute force attack is. A brute force attack is a method which is used to gain access to accounts or any system or sometimes network by systematically trying all possible combinations of password or keys until you find the correct one. So imagine that you have forgotten your phone's PIN number or your ATM's PIN number. So we know that the ATM's PIN number is going to be a 4-digit numeric number. So all possible ways it should be lying somewhere between starting from all zeros to all nines. So your correct PIN number can be any one number between this particular range. So trying all these possibilities starting from all zeros 0001, 0002, 3, 4, 5, and you all end up to 9999. This method of systematically trying all possible combinations of characters is what we call it as a brute force attack. So understanding brute force, what actually we are going to do here in our web application is we already have a client which is going to have a login page where you are expected to type in the username and then the password and to click on the login button. On the other side, you will have a web application or a web server, which in our case it is DVWA web application. And you pretty much know that our DVWA is actually running on Apache web server and then it runs on the SQL database. So as soon as you click on the login button, the client will actually send the HTTP request to your server, and this particular request is going to have your username, which is actually you have typed. In our case, let us consider this is admin, and then the password which you have typed in over here. So in our case, let us say that this is test and you are sending this particular request. In addition to these informations, your request will have a few more informations in the header. So that contains the URL, the protocol version, and so and so. And in addition to this particular information, we will also have a few more details. So all these requests will be sent to the web server, and your web server is going to check is the user ID and then the password whatever that you have entered along with the database present. And in case if you have correctly entered there will be a success code that ends on 200, or sometimes it will be giving a failure response, and these responses will be sent back to the client side, and this response will either contain the next page where the authorized user can actually able to log in, or failure message that your username and password is incorrect. So here what we are going to see is we initially do not know what is the username and then what is the password. So what we are going to do is we are going to keep sending multiple HTTP requests to the servers where having different set of passwords. So we will be trying different set of passwords P1, P2, P3, P4, etc. until we get the correct responses. So this set of passwords should be available with us, and this is what technically we call it as word list. So Kali Linux comes with some default word list, and here for our demonstration we will be using the same word list which comes with the Kali Linux, and in most of the real-time situations we will have to create our own word list, which is very huge because we are going to try with several passwords. Now we will see how to use our ZAP application to perform this brute force attack. Yep, alright. So here is our web application on the left hand side, and we have our ZAP application, and then I believe that everyone know how to configure this. If you haven't watched my previous videos, please do check out the previous videos so that you will get to know how to configure a DVWA web application, how to configure a ZAP as a proxy so that it can intercept the packet. And now what we can do is we can actually start intercepting the packets. You can click on proxy and then you can click on the ZAP so that your ZAP will start intercepting the packets. So initially what I will try to do is I will just try to log in with the admin. I know that there is a username called admin in this particular web application, but I do not know the password. So in order to get to know the password, let me just go with a random password. I will go with test123 and then I will click on login. So what happens here is the password has been sent to the server and then it has responded back with a response that username and password is incorrect. But at the same time, the best part is your ZAP has already captured the responses. So if you look at this particular response, we can actually able to see that it is using a get message, and then you can able to see that the URL is actually carrying the username whatever we have typed, and then the password whatever we have typed, and then the action, that means login, is equal to login. And so this is the request which has been sent, and when we inspect the response for this particular code, we can actually able to see that here we have 200, okay, which means we have received some response. But in that particular response, when you scroll down, you can see that there is an HTML code which is responsible for displaying the content what we are seeing here. So we can see that the username and password is incorrect. Now we will see how to brute force this particular request. Now as per the principles of brute force, what we are going to do is we will have to type random passwords here and then we will have to try each and every password, which is not possible for a human being to try all the passwords. So that is why we have ZAP in place which will automate this process for us. So this in turn is going to send multiple HTTP requests and it is going to record the responses, and based on the received responses we will figure out which one is the right password. So all that we need to do is you can just right click on the request that is captured and then you can go to attack, and from that you can go to fuzz. So when you click on fuzz, the request will be captured in this particular fuzz window and then you will be allowed to fuzz here. So in our case I am not interested to change the username. Username is going to be admin. So I just wanted to try different password at this place of the URL. Now we know where exactly the password is being located in the URL. So this is where the password is being sent, and then we are interested to first this particular area. So what we are going to do is we can just select the place where we wanted to first and or where we wanted to try different passwords, and then you can click on add. So here you will have to attach the payload, and here our payload is going to be the word list. So you can click on add and then you can click on file, because we are going to give the payload in the form of file. We have the word list as in the form of file. So you can select the file. Usually the default word list will be available under root directory. So you can go to user and you go to share, and in share you will have a folder directory called word list. So you can enter here, and so here I will be using fast track, and then you can click on open. So that will actually populate these many default passwords, or most of the people will set these words as their password. This is just a simple word list, and your ZAP is going to try all these passwords one by one in place of the password location, and then it is going to record the responses. And you can click on add and you can click on OK. So now what actually you can see is, you can see that there is a payload which has been fixed, and there are totally 222 number of entries. So actually a ZAP is going to send 222 entries to the server, and it is going to record the responses for all the requests, and based on that we can able to fetch which one is the right password. And once you are done, you can just click on start fuzzer. So as you can see, there are multiple requests which is being sent. We can just maximize this so that we can see that in action. Yep, now in no time as your ZAP has completed 222 first. Actually we can see here that there are totally 222 number of requests which has been sent. So now how do we find out which one is the correct password? So here the technique to find out the correct password is to sort all these responses based on the response body size, because the response body size will be a little bit higher only for the correct password, because only if you send the correct password, it is going to send you the code which has the details of the landing page. So as you can see, all other remaining responses is having only 4292 bytes of information, but this particular response which is having 4335 bytes of information, which is slightly higher than the rest of the responses what we have received. So the reason for this particular increase in size is this particular response is containing additional information than the rest of the responses. So actually this could be the password. This could be the password. In our case, we actually know what is the password for admin. It is password. So it has rightly identified that this is the password. And now we can try. And for this particular response, you can actually see the response also what we have received. So when you inspect the response, you can actually see that what we have actually got as a response. So here it says that welcome to password protected area admin, which means we have actually landed on to the password protected area. Now we will try that on our web application. Let me just snap it to the side. Now we know the username is admin, and then now we know the password is password, and when you hit enter, we can actually able to land on to this particular page. So if there is a wrong password, the response is going to carry only the page which says that username and ID is incorrect. But when you rightly enter the password, you can actually, it is actually bringing in different information, and also it is carrying some additional picture with that. So this is the actual reason why the response with the correct password is having a little higher size. So that is how we will have to perform the brute force attack in the lowest mode. So now we will try to perform the same thing on the medium mode. So let me go to settings, and then I will set the security level to medium, and then I will click on submit. Now the security level is set to medium. Again I will come to brute force, and again we will try to brute force this particular web application. So before that I would like to clear this out, and then I will try to send the username as admin, because we need one capture of HTTP request so that we can able to send our word list. And here assume that I don't know the password, so that I will be sending test123, and I will click on login. So when I click on login, as usual the password have been captured, the request has been captured. You can right click on this, go to attack, and then I will go to fuzz. So here this is the place where my password has been sent to the server. So I will load my payload here. So it is going to be file. So I will select the file. It is going to be in the same location. So it should be under root directory, user, share, and word list. And you can use fast track. Open. So now all these words has been added. You can click on add, and then you can click on OK. So now the fuzz location has been matched. So this particular green spot is going to be first with the information present in this particular word list, and then you can click on start fuzzer. So when you observe what is happening at the medium level security, you can actually observe that there is a delay. When we kept the security level at low, the fuzzing has just completed in just very few seconds. But now actually you can see that the fuzzing is taking much more time. So you can actually see that even now it is just only sent 9 requests to the server, because the server is not accepting the request as fast as it was in the low security mode. So we will try to understand why is this happening. So when you come to your DVWA web application, and at the bottom you can actually able to see that there is an view source. When you can click on that, you can actually see how the scripting has been done for the web application. Okay, since the fuzzing is going on, I think this is not able, the server is not handling the packet. Let me stop the fuzz here. You can just click the fuzzing process by clicking on this stop button here, and now we will try to load the view source. Yes, so now we can actually see what is happening here in this particular medium. You can actually see that when the login is failed, the server is being instructed to wait for 2 seconds before it accepts the next request. So that is why your server is waiting for 2 seconds before it is accepting every request. So that is why when the ZAP is trying to send huge number of requests, the server will just wait for 2 seconds, and only after 2 seconds it will accept the responses. So this is the security process to slow down the process. So this, I won't say that this is a foolproof method to stop brute force attack, but it may stop to little extent. So assume that your word list is having million number of passwords to try on, and your word and the correct password is somewhere at the bottom of the word list, so that it will take weeks or days together, so in order to complete that brute. While brute force is not the correct or an optimal method to find the password, there are other ways to find the password as well. So that is the reason over here. There is an hard method as well. So as already mentioned, I will be covering all the hard level vulnerabilities in a separate video, because cracking the web application at hard level requires understanding of different vulnerabilities and different attack mechanisms to exploit that particular vulnerability. So once we have gone through all the vulnerabilities present in DVWA, and once we have a very good understanding of all these vulnerabilities, we will see the hard levels of each and every parts. That is for the particular video, and if you leave this open, it will take some more time and then it will complete. If you are interested, you can just go ahead with that. Otherwise you can stop it over here. So now I believe that you would have understood how brute force attack is being happening at low security mode and then the high security mode. So how do we actually mitigate this brute force technique? So being an ethical hacker, our ultimate goal is not to hack into the web application, but also to suggest the mitigation technique so that any bad actors will not perform that particular attack on that. So one method is to use the strong password policies, requesting the users to use complex passwords which has the mix of letters, numbers and symbols. And you can go for account lockout mechanism if there is in several failed attempts for the login, so that you can slow down the accepting of request, or you can temporarily lock down the user account so that no further request will be accepted by the server, temporarily stopping the brute force attack. And you can go for rate limiting, because implementing rate limiting to restrict the number of login attempts, which in case the user is allowed only to enter 3 passwords, and after 3 unsuccessful attempts the account will be freezed for a particular period of time, or until the user visits any visit, or until the user has to take some action. Multi-factor authentication is an good alternative. So it requires additional verification. Even though the attacker knows the right password, it will ask you for the another confirmation key which is going to be with you. The multi-factor authentication, it may be a code or security key which will be sent to your mobile phone. Sometimes you may use captchas, so that any brute force tools is not possible to handle both brute force and as well as the captcha which is entered for each and every request. And if you are on the blue side, then we will have SIEM tools. So these tools will potentially monitor all the logs, and if there is any suspicious entries which reflects the brute force attack is being happening, then sufficient alerts can be triggered on. So in this particular video we have seen what exactly the brute force attack is. We understood it in theoretical form, and as well as we practically performed how to perform a brute force attack using ZAP, and we have performed brute force attack on both low and medium security levels. So that's all about this particular video, and the next video I will be performing the same brute force attack using an Kali Linux tool called Hydra. So we'll be using Hydra to perform the same brute force in that DVWA technique. So I request you to stay tuned. So I'm going to see you in the next video. Until then, it's bye from Jay and happy learning.